Hello, everyone. Welcome to St James's Park. I hope you can hear me. I'm trying something slightly different with the mic, as recommended by Adam Leventhal. I don't know if he knows that he recommended it or not, but there we go. Welcome to St James's Park. I'll flash up the score there. I'm sure you already know it. Norwich have drawn here 1-1 with Newcastle United. Quite the eventful afternoon. Just quickly while I'm here, obviously massive stadium. There is the press box. And there are the dugouts, so you can appreciate how close we are to the dugouts. And right up there, in that very corner here, is where the Norwich City fans are. So the away supporters, are miles away from the ground. We get a very close up view of what's going on in the dugouts. This was quite a game of football. I'm not sure if it was a good game of football, but it was quite the event. A game where I know I've spoken quite a lot about. The magnitude of it, and I'd been puffing my cheeks out really in terms of the prospect of this game and how defining it could be in terms of the element. I think we felt that we would get something big at some point, but then often when I think that before a game, you get to the end of the game and you realise it wasn't, which I guess is where we are now. And I know, obviously, a lot of you will have watched it and will have your own opinions on it. But take you through some of the key points, shall we? Norwich are up against 10 men, basically, for 80 minutes. On the 9th minute, Kieran Clark pulls back Teemu Pukki, who got a fortunate ricochet, but was basically in on goal. Retrospectively, if Kieran Clark lets Teemu go through, it's then up to Teemu to score. It's a sort of chance where maybe a defender has got back in the past. So probably not a guaranteed goal, but he was the last man. He pulled him back. It was a definite red card. So no real arguments there. And Newcastle, having started with some decent tempo to their attacking play, the whole game changes from that point on. And you can sort of break it down, really. I thought Norwich generally kept the ball pretty well. Obviously, they were a man up. They generally controlled the game pretty well. Newcastle have got good attacking players and quick attacking players, so they're always going to carry a threat, and they just about sustained that. But Norwich looked like they were running out of ideas, I thought, in the final third. And they did have a couple of good opportunities, but didn't really look confident or composed enough to take them. Second half starts. Dean Smith makes a change. He brings on Pierre-Les Malou for Christos Jolis, who started in place of Milot Rashica, who he slipped and felt his groin yesterday. Still travelled, but they didn't want to risk it. So hopefully he's okay now from Sunday onwards, when, of course, Norwich head to Spurs. And Christos did okay in the first half, but maybe not quite enough. So Pierre was an interesting introduction. Dean Smith changed the shape to more of a 4-3-3, but a 4-3-1-2, really. And Josh Sargent moves centrally alongside Teemu Pukki. But Norwich kind of regressed from where they were. They were even slower in possession at that point. They looked even more stodgy around the box. And Newcastle and the home crowd kind of sensed that, really. And it got to a point where Newcastle started putting pressure on, which is the point at which I think it was a corner gets put in, header back into the mixer, and Billy Gilmore has turned his head back on it. His arm is sort of here, and the ball's arm from really close range with his back to it. Billy Gilmore is not aware of it. I would say his arm is above shoulder height, which I guess by the rule means that would be a penalty because it hit his arm. It's hard to say it wasn't in a natural position because you raise your arms to jump. So without that, it's kind of hard to see whether that's I don't really believe that's in a natural position, but if that's the rule, then fine. We had a big long delay. Newcastle fans, 50,000 people baying for a penalty in that moment because they've been desperate all afternoon, of course, all evening. Referee Andrew Madley goes over to check the monitor, sees that it hits Billy Gilmore's arm and gives the penalty. Tim Krul gets a finger on it or an arm on it, tips it to the underside of the bar, but it goes in, and Newcastle are level. And at that point, I'll be honest, you fear the worst, I think. I don't think that's unreasonable to say because Norwich were struggling to score. They haven't scored a lot of goals. And, Newcastle, I still feel, are in a position where they should be much better off than they really are. They've got so much better attacking players. And maybe when Eddie Howe has a little bit longer in the seat, he will sort that. But this wasn't straightforward. And I have a real big issue with this penalty, because if that is a penalty, that's fine. But in the first half, Christos Schollis has a header on goal that the defender has his arm out behind him. It's not above his head, but he has his arm out like that. And the header hits his arm before trickling to Dubravka. So that is no more of a natural position than Billy Gilmore's this. And it hit his arm. Now, if Andrew Madley, if VAR checks it properly, then fair enough. But there were no real appeals. So did VAR check it? I mean, I'm sure they'll say retrospectively, oh, of course we checked it. Yeah. But so why doesn't Andrew Madley get to look at it then? Because VAR don't make the decision, or VAR have already decided, so they don't need to make that decision, but they have to get him to run by the other one. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a header. He didn't know anything more about it, but it's hit him, and the header was on target. So I don't really know how that's less of a handball, short of maybe the rule being different because it's bombs in the air. We then have one in the second half, which was given as a goal kick, even though, and I don't know who it was, the defender, that might have been Shah, I think, who got ahead of Adamida, who come on and put the ball out for a corner, but it was given as a goal kick. But he put the ball out with his arm. He saw the cross coming in all the way, went down to beat Adamida to the ball, and used his arm to put it out for a corner. How has VAR not checked that? And if it has checked it, there is not a million. I do not understand at any point where Andrew Medley doesn't get to look at that. And I wasn't really allowed to say that, obviously, while Norwich were losing, because it just sounds like a situation. But I genuinely don't understand. I don't understand how VAR works with handballs in that situation. So I look forward to maybe someone explaining it to me, short of not saying, well, they checked and decided it wasn't. I mean, that doesn't really wash. I can kind of understand maybe the first one, potentially, but I don't really understand how the first one is so not a penalty when the one that was given was. And then the second one in the second half, I just think is just a penalty, because he's gone down and it's hit his arm and it's gone out of play. I mean, he's literally got to the cross with his arm and there was nothing in front of him. It's like the most clear, obvious handball ever. So that's why ultimately, for as dodgy as it got, Norwich, it was really interesting because when they actually looked better as the game wore on. Fair play to Dean Smith, who admitted he should have brought Dimi Yanulis on for Brandon Williams earlier. He mentioned it's been a while since we've had a head coach do that, but he said he made a right change, but he should have made it sooner to stretch the game more. And I would agree. I thought, there was a period leading up to the penalty, as I said, it was building, and Norwich already looked like they needed something to move Newcastle around more, because it just wasn't working. And the introduction of Les Malou didn't have an immediate effect. But Dimi certainly did, and he did well, and he had a real impact in the goal. Move started by Lucas Rupp, back to Billy Gilmore. Decent cross in. I think Dubravka probably should have palmed it out of play, but instead sort of palmed it into the box, where Yanulis knocked it back across goal. And Teemu Pukki's finish is just a beautiful thing to watch. It's not easy. It's on his left foot, and he's just rattled it in the top corner. It is really a top-class goal. And I understand people sort of question Teemu Pukki, but not for me. I just think Norwich are still so lucky to have him, and it was a cracking moment, and I don't think Norwich really deserved to lose today, given the circumstances of everything. I think Dean Smith is probably right. They didn't do enough while they had their advantages to win it, and they didn't work hard enough. Whether they were a little bit lethargic, whether it was sort of a battle of their minds a little bit, I don't know. It was probably by a distance the worst 90 minutes of Dean Smith's reign. We're only 3 games into it, obviously. There was some returning to the average in terms of performance levels. I thought we saw again today why Josh Sargent struggles technically at this level. He's such a willing runner, but there seems that there's less. It's harder for him away from home, I think, and his technical deficiencies, which he may well be coached and improved on, but at this current moment where he is as a player, they just show up in these games. Probably when it became tight spaces as well, the sending off may actually not have helped him out. Seen a lot of criticism of Lucas Rupp. I find that just a bit easy. You could say he doesn't move the ball around quickly enough, maybe, but it was hardly him alone. I think as a team they weren't moving things around, but that was as much when Max Aarons got forward down the wing or Christos Jolis in the first half. So to pin it on Lucas, I think, is unfair. And then they have a wonderful chance for Pierre Lees-Melou to win it. He did so brilliantly well to win the ball, to really bear down on goal. Teemu Pukki never really gets free enough for him to cut the ball back to him. So it is then on Pierre. I mean, you're literally talking about him lifting his shot towards the far post by probably half a foot, which would have just taken it above Dubravka's foot. In the end, not only has Dubravka got a foot to it, but he's only got enough of a foot to it to loop it over the crossbar just. I mean, it's a miraculous save. It could be a huge moment if you want to think that Norwich have failed to pick up 2 points that they should have done, which is a fair point of view. You could also argue that, I don't know if Norwich would have got that goal back a few weeks ago, so maybe it's a point they wouldn't have had by the end of it, and we might get to April and think, well, that was a good point. That's the point that's kept us up. We don't know. Much like after the Wolves game, we didn't really know what the situation was with that. Had they beaten Wolves and lost here, would they have been better off? I don't know, because Newcastle would have then had 3 points, and obviously Leeds has won tonight. So ultimately, you kind of just have to take it as it is, and that is a point. It's 4 games unbeaten, which at this level is good work. I think we do have to start bearing in mind that Norwich have now got to go to Spurs, welcome Manchester United to Carrow Road, go to West Ham, and then welcome Arsenal. They are 4 difficult fixtures. But I'd like to think that there's a freedom and a confidence to go and express themselves in those games, and maybe not the fear of wondering what could happen. So I feel a bit more upbeat going into those 4 games, even though they're tougher. And this was a really difficult situation tonight, in truth. And all I wanted Norwich to do was not lose, because Newcastle had to win this game. Now they have to win the Burnley game here on Saturday, or whatever it is, which is fair enough. But there's a good degree of character in that. We can pick holes in the shortcomings, and anyone can do that. Like, you can do that with anything. But I think at this moment, with everything going on, I'd rather focus on the fact that Teemu scored a wonderful goal. Norwich didn't lose. And in terms of habit forming, I don't mind that habit. Obviously, they need to win some games. So let's see, if they get to that point over the coming games. But obviously, it's a very difficult run coming up. I'll wrap this up. I need to get home and get some work on. Not tonight. I am staying in Newcastle, thankfully. It's a beautiful evening, so I look forward to the walk home. Thanks, as always, for watching. No Todd Cantwell tonight because of a COVID-related issue. I think he got pinged by track and trace, but I don't exactly know the rules. He was allowed to go and train on his own at Colney, so I don't know what that means. So hopefully, tonight would have been a good game for on-form Todd Cantwell, I have to say. So I do hope we get to see him back to his best really soon. Hopefully Milot isn't too bad. Matthias Norman has seen a specialist. It does sound like Norwich are going to have to decide whether he needs to have surgery or whether it's going to be a situation that they manage. I think if it would be surgery, I would guess we're looking at a couple of months out. So, that's not an ideal situation, is it really? But we move on. I think that's pretty much everything. So I'll leave you to it all. A word for Adamida when he came on. I thought he did pretty well. I would like to see a bit more of him. As I said, Dimi did well when he came on too. And but for one good save, we might have seen a wonderful contribution from Pierre Lees-Melou. At least there's always the next game, which is, of course, on Sunday at Tottenham. I will see you there. In the meantime, check out The Athletic, obviously, for all of the writings. And thanks for your comments, questions, and thoughts. I'll make sure I check through all of those before I get myself home. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. All the best. I will remove the score. We've seen enough of that. Let's move on very swiftly. And I will see you all very soon. In the meantime, take care.